Hi, we're here today with Rick Kenney, Head of Consumer Insights from Salesforce Commerce Cloud. As we leave the holiday season for 2016, you've recently published a report all around the key holiday shopping trends. Can you share some insights from that report?
Yeah, and Maria, this is the third year we've done what we call all wrapped up. So we look at all of the data across the entire Commerce Cloud. So we see the shopping activity of more than 300 million shoppers. And there's one real boring thing that's happened the last couple of years, and that we've seen digital commerce growth is setting records every year, and everyone's getting really bored of hearing that headline. So we had to go a level deeper. We had to find what was happening that was different this year than the last few years. We found some really cool things. So the first thing that was really unique is this was the first year that we saw Black Friday beat Cyber Monday. So that's more sales happening on Friday than on Monday, which is a big deal. Because as we've always known, Monday's been the big digital day and Friday had been the store day. Well, it just happens that we're now unified. The shoppers have unified, much like we talk about making sure that as a retailer, you're able to have one experience. You're able to capture that experience wherever the shopper goes. We talk about that as unified commerce. Unified shopping is what the shopper looks at, and that's what she's doing today. So that's the first point that's really interesting. The second thing, which is an ongoing trend, is the mobility of the season. Mobile tends to be 52% of all traffic for the entire shopping season. That's a big number overall. And on Christmas Day, we saw 60% of traffic just on phones on Christmas Day. There's no doubt that mobile is the glue that connects that shopper to wherever she is, whether it's buying direct or in store overall. And the third thing that's really interesting is the emergence of social as a real channel. The last few years, social has tended to be 1 or 2% of traffic. And for most retailers, they like the organic nature, but weren't going to invest very often into that. It has changed. Social had 6% of mobile traffic this season, which is a real number. And that shows that a retailer has to be thinking about this as a channel, not just something organic to watch happen, but to actually invest in and make sure they're making the most of that channel as well.
Wow. So as we look to 2017, what are some key initiatives that retailers should think about investing in?
Yeah, so there are a few things that retailers have to be thinking about that can really pay dividends this year too. One of those is the ability to actually connect the shopper with product. We call it product findability. So what can you as a retailer do to make sure that that shopper can find what they're looking for really easily? And that's a couple of different places. One, you've got to be a great merchant. This is blocking and tackling of retail. But thinking about the areas that are actually useful to the shopper, the site search bar as that tried and true commerce utility. During the holiday season, that tends to drive 30+% of revenue for retailers. So retailers have to be thinking about how to use that and evolve that. And just to stay in that point too, when you think about the site search bar, a shopper is generally tapping and typing their way, asking the digital commerce site something and looking for a bunch of products in return, which is really similar to what we're seeing happen with bots. You're essentially asking something with voice if it can return you a set of products. So look for those two things to start to change, but certainly from an investment perspective, findability matters. The other aspect of findability is involving AI throughout your whole shopping experience. Not just the "you may also like" box underneath the product. It needs to be on places like the page sort for site search results, landing pages, category pages. Bringing intelligence to every aspect of that journey is vital. That's something that can happen this year for retailers, certainly. Additionally, you need to be thinking about the omni-channel tactics. It kind of goes without saying, but those are paying dividends in the cross-channel shopping activity that the shopper looks at. So some of those click and collect, buy online, pick up in store are vital, and are also opportunities to re-engage that shopper when they do come in the store to actually pick up as well. And the third one, and I think about this in the frame of this is the year of the shopper, we need to make sure that we're reducing friction throughout the entire shopping process. And that certainly means looking where you find friction. Mobile is one of those big areas that we find friction, and solving that. You think about distributed commerce, what it's doing there, but also payments. When you think about mobile payments, Apple Pay, PayPal, Android Pay, how can you actually use that to accelerate the shopping experience and make life easier for the shopper?
Retailers are under tremendous pressure to invest in technology and meet this demanding shopper that you mentioned. What are some of the big challenges and changes that you see for retailers this year?
This is one of the times in retail that you need to step back and see what how the industry is changing. One of those areas is actually the extended enterprise. It's not just about what you control, but also bringing yourself into a place that might be somewhat uncomfortable. You think about social consumer platforms as one of those places. I mentioned distributed commerce before, but if you can actually bring your product and your brand into a place that might not be owned by you, but where your shoppers are, that tends to be a real big lift for your brand. You need to be there. That statistic early on of mobile and social being more traffic for the overall shopper is an important one, because it proves that they are there and that shopping is something they're willing to contextualize as well. So first, a brand or retailer needs to make sure they're willing to go places they might not have gone before, beyond their own four walls. Additionally, brands should be considering what they can do to collaborate with other brands as well. We've seen some great examples of brands and of actually collaborating with additional brands to connect with shoppers that they might not have met prior because they hadn't been engaged in that.
Right.
And certainly we've seen that with Cole Haan and Jack Threads and a number of other places where actually pull shoppers in from a different brand that then becomes a loyal shopper to you.
As retailers look to make investment decisions, what advice would you give them of trends and technology to invest in versus other items that would be good to keep on the horizon and monitor?
And I like that word you use, to monitor, because it is something that retailers constantly need to monitor everything. Their phone's ringing from any vendor and technology all the time of what will, what won't work. Two of those that come to mind. One is the use of VR and AR is something to watch. It might be something worth experimenting in. It is very early. The shopper hasn't shown a lot of adoption yet, but it is something that brands who want to be innovative can actually look at that as an opportunity to actually garner some good press for being innovative, but might not see the ROI on investment right now. The other area that we're still watching, and I think some large retailers have benefited from, but some of the medium-sized brands maybe haven't got there yet, is the use of beacons in store. Certainly the mobile device is wildly important, but how you help the shopper use that device in their shopping activity is still somewhat to be determined. I think there'll be a lot of innovation surrounding mobile in the next couple of years. That might be beacons, it could be other areas as well, but certainly it is not only on monitor, but must see mobile watching at this point too.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for joining us today.